Okay, Hare Krishna, this is Atma Tattva. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing His Grace Caru Prabhu. I wouldn't lie and say I know much about you, Prabhu. If you could give just a quick introduction of yourself.
Well, my devotional history is I got initiated by Prabhupada in 1970. I had met the devotees in Australia and stayed there for 5 years. I didn't feel right about leaving when everything was on a ground floor level. So from 70 to 75, myself and my wife, Bobby, worked on the ground floor of the mission in Australia. I was president there variously of Sydney and Melbourne, and I opened up Brisbane Temple, as well as I was one of the two people that opened up the Melbourne Temple. And then I came back to America in 1975, and I was with the Radha Damodar bus, Vishnujana and Tamal Krishna for a few months. And during that time when the Radha Damodar pulled into Berkeley Temple, I was drafted for the BBT Library Party. I served on the BBT Library Party with Bhaktitirtha Swami and many other luminaries. And then again, when the BBT Library Party ended up in Berkeley, later on, they needed a temple president. So they asked me to be temple president in Berkeley, San Francisco. I was temple president there from 75 to 78. Then I went to Los Angeles. I was life membership director there for 10 years. We did the Festival of India. I founded the Festival of India. We did most of the colleges in Southern California with the Traveling Festival of India. And then sometime in that period, we put a down payment on an AM radio station, 5 acres of land in Utah, the land of the Mormons. And in 1990, we were able to make the transition from LA to Utah, come here full time. We built a small little ashram where we had our Sunday feast for 14 years, from 87 to 2001. In the meantime, we put a small down payment on an additional 8.5 acres, making the whole land area about 16 acres. We started the construction from a ground up temple in 98. The present Spanish Book Temple opened in 2001. Then we were later on fortunate enough to be able to purchase a 4-acre school in downtown Salt Lake City. And we built another temple from the ground up there, which opened in 2019. Started in 1995, we hosted the Color Festival, which grew and grew and grew exponentially until the present day. And as far as I know, it has always been and is still the largest festival of colors in North America, at least.
Wow, that history you just shared is as colorful as your background. It sounds like a super adventure. Now, yes, the Festival of Colors, FOC. Could you just share how it began, its inception, its growth?
I've always been inspired to speak before large audience, and I've always seen Krishna consciousness as a mass movement. And so my view in terms of preaching, I mean, some people are looking for those rare souls who are ready to become, just step on board, hit the ground running, becoming. And they're out there and they're amazing, like Radhanath Swami, Madhavananda in Orissa, who incidentally, we made a devotee with the Festival of India in 1980. But my focus is how to engage everybody on some level. And that means you're not going to be able to take everyone to the top of the Empire State Building. But even those people that are just on ground floor 1 or ground floor 2, how can we find the points of intersection so that everybody can do something for Krishna? And I like the math. Some preachers are looking for a few people that they can mentor and bring them, say, within a year's time, 100 steps towards Krishna. And they might find 1 or 2, if they're really good, they might find 1 or 2 people, each one of which they'll take 100 steps towards Krishna. and they'll invest a lot of time. But then the problem is, especially with the Western audience, you can invest a lot of time and energy in someone, and then they just leave. We find that all the time, especially with Western devotees. Um, and so what inspires me from a mathematical point of view is to reach 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 people in a year's time and have each one of them take one step. It may not sound like much as far as the individual is concerned, but I like the math. If you compare 200 steps from two people to 60,000 people with one step, I think that the math says you come out way ahead. So I'm a gateway guy. I'm just trying to find those common denominators, those commonalities, where everybody can at least be sympathetic to Krishna Consciousness. If nothing else, they buy a ticket, a VIP ticket every year for them and their family to come and chant Hare Krishna. And this should be said also. It's not really a color fest. The color is a hook to attract as many people as possible. It's really a kirtan fest, from morning till night, as long as the festival lasts. There's chanting of Hare Krishna constantly, or Jai Ram Sri Ram, or Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva, Govinda Gopal. So people who would perhaps never in their lives intersect with the Hare Krishna, certainly not go to a temple, end up spending 5 or 6 hours a day chanting and dancing. Now, from a personal point of view, Krishna made me in such a way that the larger the crowd, the slower my pulse, the more lucid my thinking. I'm more tongue-tied in a one-on-one conversation than I am talking to 5,000 people, 10,000 people. When I'm in front of 5,000 people, I'm just like a fish in water. Someone joked that above the fear of death for most people is the fear of speaking in front of a large audience. And if that were the case, they'd be more comfortable with their own funeral than on a stage in front of people. But honestly, when I'm speaking to thousands of people, my pulse is probably about 50. I just love it. And so if you look at my own history, a radio station, the Festival of India and Spanish Fork, the color festival here, the way the Spanish Fork Temple is built to be a destination of tourism for hundreds and hundreds of travelers on Interstate 15, from which our temple is visible. Everything about the things that my wife and I have done since day one in Krishna Consciousness has been about sharing Krishna Consciousness with mega audiences. And so, back in 1995, I was aware. I'd been to India on Gaur Purnima. I'd seen Holi outside. Prabhupada didn't particularly encourage us to go outside and get hit by the colors. So we all stayed inside, but we saw it. And I was aware of what a massive festival it was and how popular it was. And so at some point, I thought, since so many people enjoy this and so many people participate in it, how can we use this fact, this popularity, in order to introduce Krishna Consciousness to massive numbers of people?
Your description of touching or having a fact that just hit me actually when I was watching a couple of YouTube videos just to get a feel of what the festival is like. I think it was on Fox News. 70,000 plus people. Wow. So I was like, that's just a little shy of 100,000, and can almost feel a ground shake. And everybody's jumping around in the kirtan. I was just thinking, this is really powerful. And the backdrop with the beautiful temple is just amazing. One other thing is that the festival has become synonymous with Utah. Could you tell me about how the local community has embraced it?
I get feedback from devotees all the time in Europe, in Africa, North and South Africa, Asia. Devotees will be out distributing books or chatting with people at a Rath Yatra. They'll have people attend their Sunday feasts, and almost without exception, anyone from Utah knows about the Color Festival. There isn't anyone, unless they've just moved to Utah, maybe in the last 6 months, who doesn't know about the Color Festival. If they haven't personally been, it's their children or their grandchildren. There isn't any state senator, any member of Utah Parliament. There isn't any philanthropist or multi-millionaire or president of a university or conductor of the Utah Philharmonic who hasn't been touched by the Festival of Color in one way or another, who doesn't know someone. I had there's a famous colorful personality. It was with Channel 5, I think it is, KSL. His name is Big Buddha. And Big Buddha comes the day before the festival to do a series of interviews. Festival takes place Saturday and Sunday. So Big Buddha will come in the pre-dawn hours at 5 o'clock, and we'll have a series of 2-minute segments throughout the morning that air on the Channel 5 TV. So one year, I went down to open the gate at 5:30 in the morning, and Big Buddha was already there. He'd preceded his cameraman. Even the camera truck hadn't arrived yet. So I opened the gate, and Big Buddha pulled up abreast of me, and he rolled down his window. He's a big, jolly guy, like 400 pounds. And he says, Charu, he says, while it's just you and me here, and before everyone arrives and he gets busy, I want to share something with you. He said, I have 3 kids, and every one of those kids was struggling with school and purposefulness in life and rebelliousness and something like that. They went to the Festival of Colors last year, and I don't know what your medicine is. I don't know what your juju is, but every one of those kids started doing better in school. They started getting more purposeful. He said, Charu, your festival has turned around the lives of not 1 or 2, but all 3 of my kids. And I'm not surprised, because it is a transformational event. It gives people a taste of the sublime. You go to a concert, a U2 concert, Britney Spears concert, you yell and scream, and the lyrics and the presentation and the talent, it'll push your buttons and all. But at the end of the day, it's, your consciousness has been shattered. You haven't integrated your consciousness. You've bogai shurya prashaktanam. You've gone in 100 different directions. And even though you loved every song, you loved the artist, you loved the music, you loved the experience, you loved everything about it, the next day you're just drained. The next day you're just drained. You haven't marshaled your resources, you've dissipated them. But when you come to the Festival of Colors, you sing and dance. The music is varied. There's rock and roll, there's ska, there's reggae, there's dub, there's hip hop. But the lyrics are all focusing. They're all drawing your consciousness in. They're integrating you rather than disintegrating you. And so the overall effect of the Festival of Colors is that you do get a leg up on your future. You get a sense of expectancy and a sense of hopefulness.
You spoke of festivals. Sorry about that. You spoke about festivals that are sizable in comparison to like Britney Spears and the like. I was just looking at the whole layout of the place. How many stages do you have there? About almost
we have
4, I saw.
2. We have two in Spanish
Oh.
for it. We have the main stage, and then we have what we call the lake stage. And then we have an area of inflatables, a big area of inflatables for the kids to play. We have a yoga area where there are continuous yoga classes going on. We have a crafts area where there are 20 or 25 different booths selling craft items. Then the parking lot is a food court. We have our own Krishna's cuisine food thing with a full 5-plate vegetarian meal, or they can get samosas or lassis, pakoras. But we also invite other vegan, vegetarian food vendors. So you'll get doshas, you'll get falafels, you'll get pizza. We even have one vendor, he comes year after year. He does a vegan Korean barbecue, which is
Wow. That's interesting.
and
Vegan
the festival
Korean.
goes for 2 days. It's funny
Mm.
because we started it out, I don't know, probably in the early 2000s with just one color throw. Everybody would come for a color throw at noon on Saturday. We'd, for 10 o'clock till 12, we'd have music, we'd build it up, and then we'd have the countdown and the color throw. And after the adrenaline of the color throw, people want to dance and all. And then finally, everyone would go away. So by 2 o'clock, the whole property was vacant. But we
Mm.
started to get such huge crowds for the noon color throw that we decided we'd have one at noon and another one at 4 o'clock. So for a couple of years, we'd have a huge crowd in the morning. It'd be pretty sparse around mid-afternoon, and then we have another huge crowd at 4 o'clock.
Mm.
And then those two crowds were so big, we decided then we'd go to having a color throw every hour. So the festival started at 10 o'clock on Saturday, and there'd be color throw at 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then the crowds were still growing. So we decided to go to Sunday and go from 11 to 4 on Sunday, and then have additional color throws at 12, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's
Uh,
where we stand now. I don't know about 70 or 60,000, but I know that since we started charging a modest admission fee, and that's when, of course, we were able to count the number of people. We've been, when the weather's good, we've been pretty steady at about 20,000.
Oh. Uh, your description of how it's grown sounds as infectious as the footage. Everybody is just ecstatic. It just looks like a very celebratory and joyous occasion. Now, the size of the whole event, it sounds like a great undertaking. Could you just share a bit about the team that's involved, the collaborations behind the scene and such?
I wish there was a team. It's pretty much been a solo effort on my part.
Wow.
I had a couple of assistants who were working with me under, applying for their green cards. So I had pretty much, they did what I asked them to do because their green card depended on me. But the most amazing thing was that, of course, locally we have our members. We do have our members, and it's true to say we have a team that mans the color booth every year. That's Sundari Priya and Kapil and Ravi and Severals. We have a team that mans our food booth also. That's Rob, Ras Vilas, again, Ravi and Prashant. We have a team that manages admissions. If you're going to process 20,000 people over the course of 2 days, which means scanning their entrance code, and if they've pre-bought meals, we give them a ticket that they can redeem for a meal at our food booth. If they've pre-bought colors, we give them the colors right at the entrance. So we're fortunate that GCAU, the Gujarati Cultural Association of Utah, has done the admissions. They bring about 40 people every year. And Gujaratis are so good with finances. It's just
Yep.
amazing. They process 15,000 people on a Saturday and 5,000 people on a Sunday. And a half an hour after the gates close, a half an hour after the festival's over, they're in my office. They've got all the figures, how many men, women, and children attended, how much cash was collected, how much was done in credit card, how much was done in Venmo. They've got it all broken down. They've got the cash for the night deposit. They've got my cash in the night deposit boxes with the deposit slips for me to go to the bank. And I do give them a small percentage of each ticket so that they can finance their own Diwali festival. But it's just great because these people are not only they're good with cash, but they work well together. They're a very tight-knit community, and they're all Krishna devotees. So it's really a wonderful situation. I honestly don't know how we could process 20,000 people unless we had the Gujaratis behind us to do that. So yeah, there is a team, definitely. Now in Salt Lake City, we do another festival. We do a third in Ogden. Now in Salt Lake City, one of our members is a vice president of Goldman Sachs. So he gets 20 members of Goldman Sachs to come and help us with the food dispensation, as well as the color booth and the t-shirt sales. And Goldman Sachs pays us to feed them lunch, and I believe pays them their regular salary for coming to help out at our festivals. So yeah, there's a team. But for many of the festivals of colors that we've done have been out of state, at least pre-COVID. So it's actually amazing, even to me, to think back and think about how many out-of-state festivals we did, 700-800 miles away, with no support and no members. There were sometimes temples in that city, and sometimes there weren't temples. If there were temples, generally they wouldn't send people out to help us set up or break down. They would send out a people to man a book table, and that's about it. So we were pretty much on our own. So it would be me driving the festival truck. We had our own stage. We have 15-foot feather flags, and we have beautiful color, heavy-duty commercial pop-up tents. But all that has to be set up. All the booths have to be run and maintained. Admissions, merch, food, and then everything has to be taken down at the end of the day. So how do I, and I'm over 70 now, right? And with one Indian assistant, how do we pull off a festival, say in Los Angeles, where 8,000 people come? And here's the answer for all of those of you out there who might be considering organizing a color festival: volunteermatch.org. It's a website where festival or event organizers can advertise what their event is coming up, and people can contact you and commit to volunteer. So when we would do festivals abroad, I would get anywhere from 40 to 100 high school kids that would show up, help us set up, help run the booths, and I would trust them with all the cash. I had no choice, you know. And as far as I know, they were completely honest every single time. And then they help us break down, be like a 12-hour day. And mostly it was key clubs in high schools and National Honor Society. And these are the cream of the cream. These are kids who are at the top of their game. They're all 4.0. Grade point average kids, many of them Oriental, Chinese, Cambodia, Vietnamese, and you know, the future leaders of society. And they come out there in order to give back to their communities and help out at the Festival of Colors. And I would get more volunteers than I needed, but who am I to turn them away? I mean, here are these future politicians, future entrepreneurs, future businessmen, and I'm going to say, no, we don't need you. No, these are perhaps more important to be at the festival than some of the people who paid as attendees. So that was our secret for doing festivals abroad with just 2 people.
That's a very powerful secret. You had me sitting at the edge of my seat, like, oh no. I was just thinking you must be finished at the end of the whole thing. I can just imagine, you know.